With the Btcc finale bowing into Brands Hatch, can Ash Sutton take crown number 4?
Hello and welcome back to the British Touring Car Podcast. We made it back from our winter sun break in Spain. Russ, how are you feeling today?
Yep, all good. One last preview of the year. Can't believe the season's gone as quickly as it has done. It's gone as quickly as a Napa Ford racing car, hasn't it? It's been a season to forget in some ways, and a season to admire in others. So for one last time, we go racing this year.
Yeah, we're heading into Brands Hatch GP as we normally do for a season close, and it's probably going to be a little bit of an anticlimactic one, really, isn't it?
Well, it depends, doesn't it, who you follow. I mean, in the main championship, yes, it is. But in terms of the Jack Sears, that's still quite exciting. Although
Yep.
Watson pretty much has it wrapped up, there is still the teams, the manufacturers, and the independents teams to go. Again, they're all pretty much like to be wrapped up, I think. But yeah, it's you can try and get excited if you look at it. And Brands Hatch is quite an exciting circuit, generally speaking, as well. And there is some interesting news coming into the weekend as well. We'll start off with Team Hard's merry-go-round. The music has stopped on James Gornell, who is replacing Jack Butel for this weekend. Gornell is a very good driver, a very able driver, and it's good to see him in the touring cars. So this just reflects awfully on the team, if you ask me. But there we go. And we also have confirmation that from next year, Motor-Based Performance are changing their name to become Alliance Racing, which is very exciting.
Yeah,
Potentially.
it's a slightly interesting change. I wonder whether this is the full takeover now of Pete Osborne and the setup that he wants to run throughout the BTCC and the smaller series. We understand that Napa will probably still be partnering them next year, although a change up in sponsorship wouldn't surprise me with the rumours that are going on with Napa possibly sponsoring the whole championship.
Yeah, that'll be a very much wait to see what happens over the winter. In terms of what we can talk about, what we know we're going to be talking about, we know we're going to Brands Hatch this weekend. Brands Hatch GP circuit, the full circuit, 11 corners, 2.43 miles, debuted in the touring cars in 1958. And Sam, who has the lap record for qualifying?
Was it Ingram's from last season?
It was indeed.
Yeah.
And who has the race lap record?
Ooh. Let's go Camish.
No.
Okay, go on then.
Josh Cook, again from last season. Fair. I know. Quite a surprise in that way. Are you looking forward to the weekend's action at Brands Hatch?
Yeah, I do like this circuit. I like the layout. I like the amount of commitment that you need at the back of the circuit and those fast right-hand corners that they go through. It's certainly been a place for many ups and downs within the British touring cars and other motorsport. So I always enjoy going back to here at the end of the season. It just seems it's a nice place to close the season out for me.
I'd agree with you on that, absolutely. As a quick reminder, Tom Ingram won 2 races here last year, with Stephen Jelly taking the final win of the season. No, it was Daniel Lloyd. Sorry, I'm looking at the wrong column. It was Dan Lloyd who took the final win of the season. So 3 Hyundai wins last time out. So potentially a Hyundai circuit this time round.
Yeah, well, Ingram's got to go all out this weekend. He's BTCC have been trying to dress it up as the hunter versus the hunted, and it's a long stretch, isn't it?
Well, it is. As a reminder of the scoring, Ash Sutton sits atop of the standings on 398, with Tom Ingram back on 353. Mass was never my strong point, but that's a 45-point gap, which effectively means Ingram needs to win needs to win 2 races with fastest lap and pole, with Sutton scoring nothing to go ahead. Which doesn't seem likely, if we're being honest. I mean, Ingram can win both races, that's fine, but the idea that Sutton won't score anything in races 1 and 2, and Ingram would have to get the fast lap, as I say. If that was to happen, even if Ingram was to win the first 2 races and Sutton didn't score points, that would make a very interesting finale, but you just can't really see it, can you?
No, not really. We know how consistent Sutton has been this season, and he's either been there or thereabouts in front of Ingram or really just behind him when he needs to be. Consistency wise, I think Ingram has probably been better across the season, but the amount of wins that Ash has taken and the speed that that car has had, it's just immense, really.
Yeah, I think the other thing to say as well is that if Ingram was to win it, you'd have to say that Sutton's going to end up with some bad luck or mechanical issues, which isn't, in
Yeah.
my way, that the way a championship should be decided. It would be a crying shame that, in my view anyway, that Sutton would lose out based on factors outside his control potentially. That would be disappointing. But that, to me, is the only way that Ingram can possibly win this one for me. Which is, as I say, I wouldn't want to see a championship decided that way personally.
No, I don't think it would be right. And we saw how much heartbreak it brought Camish here at Brands several years ago with that brake failure on the penultimate lap. It's not the way that you want championships won and lost. I think a fair fight down to the end is always the best way to do it. And generally, mechanical gremlins aside, I think we'll get that anyway.
Yeah, we should do, absolutely. So that's the Drivers' Championship. In terms of the manufacturers, just a reminder of where we are on that. Uh, at the moment, we have BMW lead the way. They are a little bit ahead of Ford, who, interestingly, on the touring car website, have already changed the name to Alliance Racing Ford, which is interesting.
Ooh.
But BMW are on 7:30. Alliance Racing Ford, which is basically Napa, is on 7:11. Accelerate Motorsport are on 6:29, and Toyota are on 5:39. So it's a battle between BMW and Napa for that one. Who do you think will take home the crown?
Mm, this this is normally a fairly good BMW track. Um, I think BMW might just edge it.
I think WSR will take home the crown as well. It's a BMW circuit, generally speaking,
Mm.
and they generally find a way to win the manufacturer's title most years. In the team standings, it's pretty much already done. Napa Racing UK lead the way on 6:30, Team BMW on 5:11. So mathematically, I believe it's still on, but I would be surprised if Napa didn't take home
Very
that
unlikely.
crown. Bristol Street Motors will be eyeing up seconds if they can. They're on 5:02, so they're not too far behind Team BMW. Then a seismic gap back to Toyota Gazoo Racing on 3:95. We know the independent drivers has already won, but Josh Cook has won that one again. It seems to be, I don't know how many times in a row he's done that now, but yeah, he's the independents drivers champion. And in terms of the teams, that's quite interesting, quite close, because at the minute, One Motorsport lead the way on 484, but Car Store Parallax Racing are on 457. And the way they've been, and the way their second half of the season has gone, and the way that Moffat and Edwards aren't particularly pulling points, albeit obviously where they finish depends where they get, but you'd expect that two PMRs would outscore the rest of one, at least, if not
Quite
all
possibly.
three. That could be very close indeed.
Yeah, that one could well come down to the final race this weekend, and it may well be the only thing that's worth fighting for in the final race.
Absolutely. And then Autobright, director of Miller's Oils, who I don't even know who that is anymore. It was originally Thompson and Lloyd, but
Lloyd, yeah.
Autobright are now, yeah, but they're now across all the car. I don't know. We'll assume it's Crease and Lloyd for the sake of, I can't be bothered to guess any further. They're back on 415. So technically they could still win it this weekend, although it would be surprising if they did. Then we
Yes.
have finally the Jack, or the final one that anybody cares about, the Jack Sears Trophy, reigning champion Bobby Thompson, of course, and currently Andrew Watson leads the way on 410, Mikey Doble back on 392, Osborne on 378, who's probably just about on the cusp, but I don't think he will win it, and then Dexter Patterson back on 365, who I think is probably out of the running.
Yeah.
Although it's not beyond the realms of possibility, all you've got to do is finish in that way.
Stranger
But yeah, we'll
things have
see how that.
happened.
Absolutely. And we finally have the Goodyear Wingfoot Awards, the one everybody wants at the start of the season. Nobody wants that, doesn't want to have that foam looking glove boot on their mantelpiece. And Ash Sutton is on 156 to Hills 119, which I think means Sutton has already won that championship. I don't
What
know how it's scored. I don't care how it's scored. It's pointless.
what's a glove boot?
Well, it's got like a wing, a hand. I don't know. Yeah. I felt really, really gutted for Jake Hill last year, who obviously missed out on the title fairly closely. You know, he
Yeah.
really good, and he's then got to pose with this stupid Wingfoot award and look happy about it. Like, and yes, for sponsors and that kind of stuff, it's good, and if it's a personal achievement, fine. But nobody sets out at the start of the year to win the good foot. Oh, actually, we saw that last year, didn't we? That Sutton finished so low down that, if I remember rightly, as did Ingram actually.
Yeah.
Finished quite low down those, and they were the ones. You know, Ingram obviously, took home the major title, which, yeah, it's just who cares, man. Anyway,
Shall
that's a
we?
roundup of what's at stake this weekend.
Shall we have a look at the weather going into this weekend?
Please do.
So all year I've banged on about possible rain, possible rain, possible rain. I think this might actually be the first weekend where I'm going to say it's going to be completely dry, decent warm weather as well. It looks like on the Saturday for qualifying, we should have sort of like 23, 24 degrees, nice sunshine, no rain at all. And then on the Sunday, a little bit cooler, 21, 22 degrees for the majority of the races. And we'll probably be getting towards dusk for the end of race 3. But I don't expect the weather to throw up any mishaps this weekend.
Well, now you've said that it's going to be dry, you've cursed us with an eternally wet weekend then, so I look forward to that.
It'll
No,
be
you're
fine.
confident. You're
Yeah,
confident on this one, are you? Okay, well,
yeah,
if you're
definitely.
confident, then we'll see how that goes. I look forward to a wet race 1. I mean, it's really difficult to do this preview because the championship's won, isn't it? It really. What could we say? I mean, as you said, the touring cars officially are trying to bleed some life into it, the hunter versus the hunted, but it's done, isn't it? There's nothing to be excited about,
This is
particularly in terms of championship battle.
this is almost a weekend for pride for some drivers. Ingram's just got to try and drive as fast as he can this weekend for any possible slip up that Sutton might have. Watson's got to keep his head to make sure that he takes home the Jack Sears Championship, because as we know, a non-finish in that can completely change the standings. So he's got to make sure that he keeps out of trouble and keeps a vague eye of where his rivals are on that. But I also think there are going to be drivers this weekend looking to try and finish the season on a high, try and gain a good, if not their best result of the season. Drivers like Moffat, Edwards, maybe try and sneak into the points for her. You say Gornall's coming in this weekend. What can he do in what we know to be a little bit of a basket case of a car? Will he surprise us? Will he jump
I,
into the car and find a little bit of speed?
I think that's an interesting one because if he does, that really does ask questions about Boutel's ability at this level,
It
doesn't it?
does.
Because I was reading an interview yesterday or an article yesterday about Bobby Thompson's return. He hasn't got his old car back. He is in Nick's car.
Okay.
Crease has kept that Thompson's old car, so presumably that means that Gorner will be in Boutel's car this
Yeah.
weekend, Boutel's chassis, etc. So if he comes in and does well, even if he comes in and scores points, that's quite damning for
Very.
Boutel, who hasn't had the best of seasons, hasn't scored points, hasn't been particularly quick. I agree with your comments that Edwards will be looking to get some points this season. It'd be nice if she could, because she's been on the cusp a couple of times. That'd be nice if she can. The Boutel one is an odd one in some ways. It's odd you wouldn't have enough money to make the last round at this point in the season. You kind of just think, well, whatever money you've got, just have a go. But then equally, it's also weird that Gornell would come in and bring some money to table to have a one-off round in touring cars. At the end of a season, that's strange as well.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't understand the Team Haas stuff anymore. The article, I think it was on Autosport with Bobby Thompson. It is interesting. I think Team Haas put a TikTok or video out on Instagram explaining how much things cost. That's also interesting, but then things cost more and you've got to times it by 6, isn't it? So, yeah, I don't know. Team Hard's driver merry-go-round hasn't gone down well on social media with a lot of the fans. I think that they're willing to forgive one, maybe even two, but when every car, apart from 2, has had a driver change this year, they've had 4 different cars with different drivers in. It's not a great look, is it?
No, it certainly isn't.
And then I think the other interesting thing, just briefly on that as well, is that when Huff stepped into the car at Knock Hill, he was allegedly going to be doing the last 2 rounds as well. Obviously, he couldn't do Donington because he had other commitments. So why has he not come back for the other 2 rounds? Is it money or is it something else? I don't know. The whole thing just looks utterly bizarre, doesn't it? Particularly as Huff was saying at Not Kill, if I remember right, that he was looking to get a package together for next year to be on the grid fully.
Yeah.
Then I can't believe that he wouldn't want to be at these last 2 rounds. I don't understand anymore. I don't know what to say.
You say that obviously going to each round across the season will cost a lump sum of money. I would assume, and if Huff is looking towards getting a drive for next season, then maybe he just needs to hold that money back and see where it is best to be put next season. I very much think that it won't be at Team Hard. I'm glad that they gave him the opportunity to go and run at Knock Hill, to give him a taster and to give him a feeling of what it was like, because it's been quite a few years since he's been in the sport. But
Problem
if he
is, though,
really go on,
I was going to say, problem is, as good as Huff is, who would offer him a deal? Uh, he has been out of the game a long time. I'd argue slightly against what you just said and say surely his best option is to come back and do a couple of. If he doesn't want to be someone like Hard, come and do 3 rounds to show he's still got it at this level, to put his name in the shop window, as it were. Because if you are, say, Bristol Street Motors, who are allegedly going to 6 cars next year, allegedly speaking, why would they pick Huff over someone like Thompson? Why would they pick Huff over somebody like potentially Gornall?
I,
You know, it's
I,
difficult. I think,
it's always a question in this circumstance of what potential he can bring, and also what history he's got, and what almost qualifications he's got for the job role as such. He comes in with a great CV and great experience, and if he's able to bring that into a team to help develop, then I think any team would be grateful of that experience. Um,
but you can say that of so many drivers, and if he's
yeah,
that's why I'm saying that I'm surprised he has. Given that all the signs were it wasn't a one-off. If it had been billed as it's a one-off at Knock Hill,
yeah,
just then fine. But it wasn't billed that way. It was billed as this is Huff's return to the touring cars, and he has decided not to. Which to me, you can read that into a million different ways.
yeah.
But yeah, I say I don't really understand why Gornall's coming in for a one-off weekend either. He's presumably had to put a lump sum down for this weekend. You'd have thought,
Yeah.
or made up what Bootel couldn't. So why would you do it for a final weekend at brands that ultimately doesn't matter, apart from to get your name in the shop window? But again, does Gornall really believe that someone will take him on next year without a substantial budget contribution?
Well, yeah, we do see drivers come into the sport and go out of the sport in different stages as well, don't we? It seems to be that throughout touring cars. We've mentioned before that there isn't many young driver programs bringing in the younger drivers through. We do see a lot of this rotation between names that occasionally appear and are popping back in and out at times. And I have a feeling that's kind of just the state of play at the moment. If we were to have like a rookie scheme or a graduate scheme, then I think we would see a better progression of drivers. But when money is such a big factor, then there's always going to be those drivers that have had a little bit of pedigree going, you go, look at my CV to the sponsors that he's trying to get, and they'll go, oh, yeah, he's got a decent CV. We'll get our name behind him rather than an up and coming driver who's had maybe a win or two in the minis and is looking to progress, isn't such an attractive prospect to sponsors.
No, that is absolutely true.
It's a real balance.
I agree with you. And if you look at Bristol Street Motors and say they're going to run 6 cars, well, you'd assume one of those would be Dan Zelos, who's still in the Accelerate program. And then who else do they take on? It's very interesting. I know that if I had the choice of signing Thompson or Huff, I'd be picking Thompson every single day of the week.
What I found quite interesting in the article that mentioned this possible 6 Hyundais is that they may not necessarily be running as a 6-car team like we've seen at Hard this year. It may well be that they loan out 2 cars, give technical support to another team. So could we see a PMR take on 2 Hyundais and change it up a bit, or could we see Team Hard take on 2 Hyundais and run that way round?
No, God,
It would be
no.
the possibilities are out there, aren't there?
There
We
are.
saw it
No.
when Sicily took on 2 BMWs from WSR.
Yeah, but
So it's always a possibility out there.
it is a possibility, although I don't think it's fair to compare Sicily to Team Hard. I'll just leave that
No,
there. I won't say any more. You can make your own mind up on the thoughts on that. But yeah. This was, as I say, we've gone off on a bit of a tangent, but there really is nothing to talk about on the preview show, particularly. Jax's Dukes, that's semi-interesting. It's likely to go the way of a PMR driver, which I don't think either of us saw at the first start of the season. Which way do you think it goes, Dobble or Watson?
I think it goes to Watson. I think he's just got that little bit more nous, having come from GT packages before. He knows what it's all about in a championship battle coming towards the end of the season. Dobble's done a fantastic job this season, and I don't think anyone really expected him to be up there challenging for a Jax's title. Maybe a few Jack Series wins throughout the year, but he has really surprised me.
And Dobble will have a chance to go again next year because at the minute he hasn't taken a podium. So if he doesn't win it, he
No.
will be able to go again next year. Whereas Watson, of course, won't be able to as he's taken a podium already this season. I think the real loser out of this, if you like, is Sam Osborne, who obviously has taken a podium this year and therefore is unlikely. It won't be able to compete next year and is unlikely to win it this year. Bit of an opportunity lost for his CV, I think, but without being too crass and too disparaging, when your father's involved in the team, your seat is always pretty safe, isn't it? Just ask a certain Mr. Stroll about his son that doesn't do very well most weeks.
Yeah. Shall we get on to some predictions then?
We shall indeed, if I can get the technology to work with me, which is always a risk. Let's do that, and hopefully you can see my screen.
Hey.
Hallelujah. Right.
Like
In that
clockwork.
case, my predictions then. Wow, it's a smooth operation, this podcast. It's only taken a year to get to this level of smoothness. Right, prediction time. Pole for Jake Hill. BMW goes well here. It's Jake's home track. He goes well here. And I think that he's got nothing to lose this weekend and he'll be looking to finish second in the championship if he can. So, yeah, pole for Hill. Sutton for a race win because water is wet, the sky is blue. Sutton takes race wins. It's just what happens, isn't it? So, I think he'll want to win on a high, and I can see him taking the win that then means he wins the championship as well. He'll do it the way, in the most flamboyant style possible.
Okay.
Jake Hill will also get a win, as I say, see my comments for the poll. And Adam Morgan, the BMW goes well round here. Morgan's had an up and down season, and I think he might just snatch the reverse grid race win, get sort of up the field on the reverse grid, and I can't see him then being caught with Watson taking the Jack Sears, both the win this weekend and also for the season. If we take on to yours,
I'm surprised you didn't go for a possible jelly in race 3 rather than Morgan.
Jelly has been so up and down this year that he'll either win it and make everybody look foolish, or he's going to end up upside down in a wall somewhere. It's just not been.
We don't wish him to be upside down. Let's just clarify that.
Absolutely not. But you know what I mean. There'll be, it's been one of those years with Jelly where he's been caught in so many incidents that I just, unfortunately, I see an accident more than I see a win.
That's fair enough. Well, as you say, Ingram has also got nothing to lose this weekend. We saw what kind of pole lap he did last year, which is why I think he might try and pull something else out of the bag to match that, or possibly even better that. So I'm going for him for pole. He needs to take at least a win this weekend, ideally two, but I'm spreading my chances across the winners. As you say, Hill always goes pretty well here. I think he might take a win along with Cook, who he always seems to nick one at the end of the season, doesn't he? Even when he thinks he's had a bad season.
Yeah, I can already write his interview for him. It'll be Josh, good to get the win. Yeah, came a bit late in the season, but it's always good to get one. Hopefully, it won't take so long next year to get one. You can imagine. Yeah. They're fairly solid, and obviously you've gone for Watson as well. In terms of general predictions, I think PMR get a podium this weekend. They've had a barnstorming second half of the season, and they've really surprised. I think probably themselves to a degree, but certainly myself. And I think that they'll carry on that good form with a podium this weekend. I also think that Collard will outscore Moffat. I don't know why, it's a bit arbitrary, but we'll go with it. And I think that WSR will outscore Bristol Street Motors. Now, for clarity, That is Turkington, Morgan, and Jelly will outscore the 4 Bristol Street Motors drivers. I will not put Jake Hill in that bracket as he's, I think, at Silverstone. There's a little graphic by the cars saying Turkington WSR, Jelly WSR, Morgan WSR, Jake Hill, friend of the brand.
What a strange turn of phrase. Okay.
Yes. So I won't count him as WSR for the purposes of working that one out. And finally, we're going to go on Sutton's final points total. We've kind of accepted he's going to win it. I am therefore predicting he'll finish on 448 points. If one of us is spot on, they get 3 points. The closest gets 1.
Yes. Yeah, looking forward to seeing how that pans out, because we've gone for a fairly close points total, haven't we? So I think Ingram will outscore all his teammates combined this weekend. So Chilton, Halstead, and Pearson. I just have this sneaky. Go on.
Sorry, imagine if Halstead outscores him now.
Or if Halstead gets that 1 point to add to the total of the other three. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think for some reason Jelly likes Brands Hatch. I don't know why. He just seems to run normally pretty well here. So I think he's actually going to outscore Aaron Taylor-Smith, which I know is a fairly big claim considering the pace that the PMR have had towards this back end of the season. And I also... go on.
Just on that, did you look at Jelly's results from last year at all?
No.
Right, okay, probably best that we don't mention that then.
Okay, good.
Yeah. Jelly has taken a win here, albeit in the blue-red Metaclad 1 series. Yeah. Let's not forget that he was fired into a wall at the start of this season's Brands Hatch. So I think that is a very bold one by you.
Not always his fault.
I didn't say it was. I just said it was a... yeah.
And I also think Gorner will score a higher finish than Crease and De Leon. So he'll have the highest finish of the weekend. So say if Crease and De Leon finish outside the points, maybe in 17th or 18th, that Gorner will have a high of 16th across the weekend, or maybe even score points. We don't know really. We don't know how that Cooper's going to form.
I think that's really, really, really bold, because I wouldn't be surprised if he doesn't. And it's not an indictment on him, but I wouldn't be surprised if he doesn't get a single points finish or even finish a race. So if he can finish a race, that
or go home.
Do your points first. Sorry.
And then my total points, I'm thinking 443, which I think is 45 points for the weekend, which is kind of about average for what he's been scoring across the whole season.
Fair enough. Just to remind people of the scores, you currently lead by half a point on 30, and I am on 29.5. So a crucial weekend for. I suppose that's something exciting in a way, isn't it? Who will win the prediction battle?
Especially with the 3 points riding on that general prediction as well. It could actually be the thing that swings it.
Who knows? I think that pretty much covers everything off, to be honest with you. Obviously, the first race, I think, is at 11:30. Actually, we'll confirm the timetable before we go, because obviously it is important. The first race of the day is at 10:05, and I believe that is available on the on the ITV website and on YouTube. So I think all races are being streamed, aren't they, before the television coverage kicks in. The first touring car race is at 11:30. The second touring car race is at 3:20, and the final touring car race is 5:25. There will all be 15-lap races, subject to safety car or, for whatever reason, reductions due to timetabling issues.
Just to mention, unfortunately, we didn't have a grades and predictions podcast come out.
Well, we did.
Technical difficulties with the recording last time out at Silverstone, but those grades will still be taken into account for our final grades at the end of the season. And you can go back and look at our predictions on our social media to see how we did for that weekend. Do you have any further final thoughts?
In a word, no. As I say, it's take it for what it is this weekend. Hopefully, in my hope, everything like the Jack says and the main championship, get done in race 1, so race 2 and 3 can be a bit bonkers. That's my hope, because sometimes we do get a
Free
schools
for
out
alls.
feel. Yeah, schools out feel, kind
Yeah,
of go for it all. Licenses get reset next year, I think. So nothing dangerous or stupid, but if we could go to having a bit more of like a race 2 at Silverstone, which was very exciting.
yeah,
If we can get that out of the way in race 1, because the other problem in my mind is that even if Sutton qualifies down in 17th, let's say 17th for argument's sake, people will just let him past. We know they will. We know they will. So
quite possibly,
yeah.
quite possibly.
So
But
yeah. So I hope it gets done in race 1, and then we can hopefully enjoy race 2 and 3 a bit of bit of more exciting free for all maybe, and let's have a win for something absolutely random. Let's have Nick Housen on the podium. Let's really have a good weekend with some random results.
well, this weekend we're going to do something a little bit different with our recording. We're actually going to record our reviews of each race after they happen on the Sunday. It will all be released at the normal time, I think, on Tuesday, Monday or Tuesday after the weekend. So there'll be a slightly different take and a slightly different feel to the review podcast, but that will be out. Followed by, all being well, the predictions and grades podcast after that, and then we're looking at possibly next weekend to record a full season review.
And opening of our predictions from the start of this season, which will
Mm,
be very exciting indeed.
very much so.
Intrigued, and also it doesn't help that we've lost. There'll be places potentially lost where drivers have to drop out or whatever. But that's we'll cross that bridge when we get there.
Yep. Okay, then, mate. I will see you on Sunday, and we will be back on Monday with a review.
Bye bye previews. That's all of them done for 2023.